Hello, friends, family, and strangers, probably. It's me, Devin. Just here to make a little video that I've been wanting to make for a very long time now with a message of positivity. And I mean that in a little different of a way than you probably normally think of it. I want to talk about positivity in terms of HIV. I myself am actually HIV positive and undetectable. I've been able to talk with quite a few of my friends and family about, but there are a lot of people in my life that don't know as well. So this will be the first time that I'm really talking about it sort of publicly, which I'm a little nervous to do, but mostly really excited. And I'm also hoping that this will reach other people in the same boat as me, similar shoes, that might not be dealing with their diagnosis as well, and to give them a little bit of hope and to feel less alone. I have actually been living with HIV for 4 years now, as of today. Today would be the 4 year anniversary, and that still kind of blows my mind. I think that I've dealt with it pretty well from the start. One of the things I always like to tell people is that I'm just too lazy for negative emotions because they require too much effort. So I definitely had my time to really feel the trauma that can kind of come with that diagnosis of those negative emotions. I've felt them out, cried them out for sure, um, and then kind of forced myself to move along. I'm just hoping that I can kind of impart some of that weirdness I have in that aspect onto people dealing with it today, um, and help them through that process. A lot of people in my life do know, but for those that don't, I'm thinking that the fact that it's been 4 years, and these people have had no idea, might shock some people, and I want that to give them the perspective that I'm obviously no different, and neither is anyone else that is positive. And that's the trouble with the stigma that is still around these days, is we are treated at or looked at in a negative way, sort of made to be ashamed about our status, which makes it very hard to talk about. And while I'll say I've been very lucky that um, the majority of people that I've had these conversations with have only met me with support and understanding and love, or even if there was a lack of education and understanding, they gave me the opportunity to educate them. Um, and then from that point, there was just that love and support. However, with the majority of my experiences being positive ones, um, it's still terrifying to have that conversation every single time. Just like making this video, but I'm going to do it anyway. So, HIV stands for a human immunodeficiency virus, which is the virus itself that attaches to your white blood cells, effectively your immune system. And what it does is it uses your cell's natural mitosis to, I think that's right, anyway, or cell division, to replicate itself, and that's why it spreads so quickly, and that's what makes it so dangerous. AIDS stands for acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Later stages of HIV. I don't want to say end stages because technically you can go in and out of AIDS, because it is just that, like, the syndrome. So when you have hit the point of AIDS, which when I was diagnosed, I was, when I was in the hospital, I was technically categorized with AIDS. It means that your immune system is so low that you are more prone to opportunistic infections, or just any sort of sickness to the point where it potentially could be fatal. The easiest way to kind of understand and explain it is there are numbers, and kind of counts, that are attributed to this. So when I go get blood work done every now and then to kind of check where everything's at, they'll take counts of how much of the virus is in my body, as well as where my T cells are at. My T cells are your white blood cells, so your immune system. A normal person's T cells are in between 500 and 1500, or a normal healthy person. Um, Mine were at 138 when I was admitted to the hospital. Um, And then my viral load was like 448,000 some, which is quite a lot. What happens is once you get into treatment and you're put on medication, which is called antiretroviral medication, what it does is it interrupts the process of HIV using your white blood cells to replicate itself. So that way your body can naturally rebuild your immune system and start to fight it off. It replicates too quickly for the medicine to completely eradicate it, but what it does is it can suppress it to the point of being undetectable. The reason it's called undetectable is in doing lab tests, it no longer shows up because there's so little of it in your body, which is generally 20 or less. So once your viral count has reached 20 or less, you're considered undetectable. At that point, the virus is no longer doing any serious damage to you, and there's effectively no risk for you to pass it on to another person. I found out that I was positive because I had become very sick. I thought I was severely dehydrated because I don't know how to drink water. But it turns out I had caught a parasite called Giardia, which kind of just messes with your stomach in a really bad way. I literally felt like my body was falling apart. So I had been taken to the hospital. While there, they'd done a bunch of blood tests to figure out exactly what was going on. And I was diagnosed positive for HIV. Doctors don't have a lot of time, so they just kind of pop in, give you that diagnosis real quick, and leave. So I didn't have a lot of information. There's a lot of just acronyms and numbers and things flying around. It wasn't until I had gotten to my specialist after the fact that I had really gotten to learn and have that broken down for me. My immune system had just been attacked without me knowing. And to the point where I was able to pick up that parasite. And in a way, it kind of saved my butt because it took me to the hospital so I could get those tests done. But all the more reason to learn from me and get tested frequently. The best options for those that are negative are obviously condoms, but PrEP is a really amazing drug that can reduce the risk of becoming positive up to 92 to 99%. And so obviously paired together, those are some pretty great chances to protect yourself. And just being smart and safe with your practices. But having those conversations with your partners is super important too when you have that dialogue. Like I said prior, opening the conversation, takes away the shame and it helps people learn, and it makes things safer. But all in all, you can have those conversations, but the only way to know for sure that you are protected is to do your part on your own because you are responsible for yourself, and is to use condoms and PrEP. Another product or medicine, another medicine is PEP, which, I'll back up a little bit. PrEP stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis, so that just means obviously pre-exposure. Before you become positive, you would take that drug to prevent that from happening. PEP is if in the event that you have an experience where you are afraid that you could have potentially been exposed to the virus. PEP stands for post-exposure prophylaxis, and it's something that can be taken anywhere in a 72-hour window. Obviously, the sooner the better, but it has about the same chances of stopping the virus before it can kind of take hold of your system if you do believe that you could have been infected with it. I would say a new beginning, which is a phrase that's become very important to me. I have a tattoo that means new beginnings, and if you follow the line, it looks like an infinity symbol in the middle, which is how I view your experiences in life, good and bad. From those, there's always a lesson or silver lining to take from it. And if you apply that to yourself, it should change you a little, so you'll come out on the other side a little different. But if you think of it that way, life's full of little mini clean slates, and nothing's really ever that bad for that long. So it's not to discount what has been hard in the experience, but it's looking past that into what can I take from this, how can I learn, how can I grow, and it's very much done that for me, giving me perspective, maturity. It just really made me grow up pretty fast in a lot of ways. And so, in a weird way, I am positively proud of that and who it has shaped me to be. While it has not always been the most fun road, it's allowed me to help so many other people, and to grow myself, which is what I am most passionate and thankful for. Lastly, for anyone that is in the same boat as me, I would say HIV, or honestly any sexually transmitted disease, because they all kind of get the stigma there. Anyone that's in that boat or things that they might have recently been exposed, I want to encourage you to reach out to other people. And I would hope that anyone that's seeing this either already has connection to me or can find connection to me, and I will gladly be someone to help talk you through that, because you're not alone. And I think that was one of the hardest things for me to wrap my brain around at first, because when I got that diagnosis, I felt like everything was closing in. Why is this happening to me? You really do feel that. You just feel so alone, and all those negative things come right up to the surface, and you have to remember that you're still you. Your status doesn't define you. Sorry, I just got a little bit emotional for a second. Your status doesn't define you as anything more than a survivor, I would say, especially with this. I know, not to toot my own horn, but I'm surviving the financial strain, the emotional strain, the social strain that it took, and the physical strain. Luckily, because I've been on my medication, physically I'm in a pretty good place, but it's still got to stay on that medication and all that jazz to keep that there. But yeah, it doesn't define you. It doesn't change who you are. It's a sickness like anything else, and you just have to take care of it. A quick little story for me is, of anyone that I was terrified to tell was my parents. My parents are not the biggest fans of my sexuality, which it's no more fair for me to tell them what to believe than it is for them to tell me what to feel, and there's an understanding there. But I was terrified to tell my parents because I was afraid that they were going to use that as another reason to be more bitter towards my sexuality. I was afraid that it would be focused back to that. And I can't tell you how proud I am of my parents in the way that they dealt with it. And it honestly closed a bit of a gap that had been forming in my relationship with them, because when I told them, their only reaction was, you're sick, what do we need to do to make sure that you get better? And that was it. Simple as that. And that's what I want it to be for everyone. Anytime that they have this conversation, I want it to be focused on this person's wellness and what can I do to help you get better, instead of shaming you and bringing those negative stigmas to life, because that's not what anyone needs in this position. But yeah, that's what I would say to anyone going through this at the moment. And then a quick side note to my parents, my family, and my friends. Jeez. I love you all, and thank you so much for helping me get to the place that I'm at today.